What was the dumbest rule your school enforced? Story 1. In grade 8, we were banned from standing in circles at recess because of potential scandalous activity going on in the middle. We stood in squares instead. Story 2. We couldn't wear winter clothing, jackets, hats, gloves, in class because they were gang symbols. This was a small farm town in Wisconsin. Besides obviously having no gangs, it was fucking cold, even indoors, in the winter. But clearly wearing warm clothing is something only gangs do. Also small town Wisconsin, we weren't able to wear jackets or anything like that in class either for literally the same reason. One kid came into class wearing snow boots and the teacher told him to put them back in his locker. So he came back with his farm boots that smelled like straight manure. You knew where he was for the rest of the day. Reminds me of the stupidity behind the logic of my high school banning Halloween costumes because around 15 years before some students vandalized the school wearing masks on Halloween. They couldn't just be like, you can wear Halloween costumes, just no masks, and let students have a little fun. Story 3. I'm a cheerleader, and for school spirit week I wore the uniform they gave me. I got dress coded. Story 4. Our school banned hugging because it was erotic. As you can imagine, the boys at school started giving each other very sensual high fives for the rest of the year. Story 5. Can't wear too many matching shirts because you could be a gang. This was in regards to a kid with cancer wanting to make a bunch of shirts. My high school was in but fuck Nebraska. My public school in the 90s tried to make us wear private school style uniforms. Avoiding gang colors was big argument for this. This was an affluent school in the suburbs. Schools will latch onto any perceived potential transgression to enforce authoritarian rules, which is how you end up with teen girls carrying ibuprofen for period cramps being treated like heroin traffickers. Story 6. No backpacks to class, but purses were allowed. Girls started carrying around purses big enough to be considered a backpack, guys got pissed started carrying purses too. Story 7. Middle school had banned salt and pepper from being used in the cafeteria, claimed it was too unhealthy. Still sold Mountain Dew in the vending machines. School I used to teach at had similar rules. Some bullshit about federal nutrition standards or something. We just keep them in the teacher's lounge along with hot sauces and chamoy and a few other condiments and leave them on our desks. Story 8. In my freshman year of high school we had a terrible vandalism problem. The bathrooms would be broken in various ways almost constantly. In a stroke of pure genius, the staff decided that any bathroom that was vandalized would be closed for the week on first offense, the quarter for second, and permanently on the third offense. They took back the rule after closing every bathroom on day 1. Story 9. In 6th grade they switched out all student chairs for large rubber stability balls. There was a strict no bouncing rule. It was a disaster. Story 10. Prom was a mandatory lockdown for the night in order to avoid students going to parties after prom. Prom was held at various house parties across town instead. Story 11. Shoes are to be worn as the manufacturer intended. I have no clue who was wearing their shoes incorrectly, or how, but this line, verbatim, was repeated to us over the morning announcements when there were perceived infractions at various points throughout the year. Story 12. They decided everything bad happened in the last 5 minutes of lunch, so it got 5 minutes shorter each year. Any group more than 5 had to be up to no good, so no groups over 5. Story 13. If you were involved in a fight, you got suspended. While it sounds reasonable, context didn't matter. I got suspended once not for throwing a single punch, kick, whatever. I got suspended because someone knocked the books out of my hand and when I reached down to grab them they punched me in the face. I got suspended for walking down the hallway and unprovoked getting punched in the face. Fuck Brandon Valley Middle School. My buddy got suspended for something similar. His Marine Corps MP mother told him in no uncertain terms that if anyone tried that shit again, earned that suspension. Fucking surprise surprise, the dude tried that again and he went ham on that kid. Busted nose, torn ear, black and blue for weeks. The fallout was exactly the same as not fighting back at all except my buddy got a pat on the back from his mom and a new video game. Tell you what, no one tried that with him again. If it wasn't zero tolerance, then it wouldn't be a problem. Someone gives you some physical trouble and they get punished, easy peasy. They've got cameras everywhere, surely it would be pretty easy to see. Story 14. My high school mascot was Daniel Boone holding a musket. A kid wore a Guns N' Roses shirt to school and was told he had to change shirts because of the pistols on the shirt. He pointed out the hypocrisy of the school mascot and they changed everything. The mascot was switched to holding a flagpole instead. Every instance of the mascot was changed from the multiple signs outside and around the school to the giant picture in the middle of our basketball stadium. Holden, you're a fucking legend for this. Story 15. Suspension as a punishment for skipping school. Don't want to come to school? Well, now you can't, until next week. Grade 12, I got suspended 3 days out of school for skipping school. Parents didn't even have to call in for me, it was great. Story 16. They banned hats because hats can be used to signify gang colors. The only major crime group in our area was the Hells Angels, and they certainly weren't having people wear hats for children to signify their allegiance. It was so bad a few years after I graduated I came back to volunteer as a chaperone for a school trip as a favor for my favorite teacher. The principal saw me wearing a beanie from across school. He literally sprinted half a mile to chase me down and tell me to take off the hat. When I told him I wasn't a student and didn't have followed the dress code, he said either take off the hat, leave, or he'd call the cops. It wasn't the actual day of the trip, just had to show up to get the itinerary and stuff, so I just said, fuck you, I'm out. Idiots. Story 17. I love telling this one. We had percentage grades, and if you earned 100% in a class for the semester you would be dinged down to 99%, because only God is perfect. As far as I know, this was not an official rule, and I only know of it happening one time, to the girl who eventually became our valedictorian, but that was the reasoning she was given. It was a Catholic girls' high school and there were a lot of other weird, strictly enforced rules, especially around the uniform, but the only God is perfect rule will always take the cake for me. Story 18. You got in trouble if you wore just a Hanes white t-shirt after school because you were in your underwear. Story 19. My high school band t-shirts that had the cover of Rush's album Signals, an album popular at the time, which features an image of a dog sniffing a fire hydrant. They considered it scatological because the dog was about to pee on it. This struck the entire student body as extremely stupid, and roughly 1/2 of the student body picked a day to wear the t-shirt. We won. Story 20. Took all the doors off the men's room bathroom stalls because of vandalism for 2 months. Story 21. We were all given these ugly planners at the beginning of the school year, with a few pages at the back filled with hall passes. If you didn't have your planner, or if all your boxes were filled, you weren't allowed to go to the bathroom. And no, you couldn't buy a new planner. Or borrow one from your friend. The only excuse you had was if you had a doctor's note, but no doctor is going to give a note for an upset stomach caused by the school lunch. Story 22. We had to wear belts. Someone snitched that people weren't wearing belts under their sweaters, and they actually checked and a bunch of people got detentions. Stupid. Story 23. Attended all-girls high school. You had to bring a male date to dances or not attend at all. No going solo or with your girlfriends. So backwards. Story 24. No fitted clothes for girls. This was high school. If the swell of your breasts or butt were visible due to tight fabric you had to go home. This wasn't a religious school. This was just a school run by dumb pieces of shit. I'm high school, my boobs grew really quick over school holidays. So I went back to school and my dress didn't fit properly and the t-shirt I wore under it was visible because I couldn't do up the first 2 buttons. I got a new dress within the first week, but I had several teachers pointed out in front of my classmates that I was irresponsible for having boobs too large to fit my old school dress. Story 25. My freshman dorm at a religious college had a list of rules that filled a legal-sized sheet of paper. It included being in your room for forced study time every night, keeping your towels straight on the towel rack, and making your bed by 9 a.m. every day, including weekends. So if you wanted to sleep in on Saturday morning you were supposed to get up, make your bed, and then go back to sleep in top of the bed. Story 26. Involved in a fight, same punishment regardless of fault, and this led to more dangerous fights due to everyone just going for it. Saw people use chairs, cricket bats, and anything just a hand. Getting expelled from the school was really hard as it was the last chance school in the area, and after that it was the special reform school. Story 27. A girl and a boy couldn't sit together. The school employed disciplinarians to roam around the school and monitor this activity. If found, you will get a reprimand. If found repeating the offense, you get sent to the principal office, and if continuing, then eventually escalated to the parents, etc. Story 28. No backpacks in the halls. Oh yeah, because carrying all of our books between classes was a great fucking idea. Plus hardly any time between classes to exchange books meant carrying multiple classes' things at once. Story 29. No playing on the mini golf course. Due to the school having mineral rights on oil land in the mid-70s, our school system had huge amounts of money. One thing they did was get 9 concrete animals on the playground for miniature golf. These looked like a lot of fun to play on for kids, and they were concrete so they were indestructible. They took up 1/3 of the absolute center of the playground. We could not touch them, play on them or get anywhere near them. In PE we broke out the putters once in all of grade school. A few years later they had the high school seniors take them out with sledgehammers. Story 30. Zero tolerance to bullying. The faculty were the worst ones. Too many double standards. They had no problem enforcing it when a student was doing the bullying but did absolutely nothing to punish the teachers when they did it. Story 31. In elementary school, only grade 5 or 6 to grade 8 ate in the lunchroom. We would have a lunch monitor stand at one end of the cafeteria watching all of us eat and none of us were allowed to get up. The only reason we could stand up was to go to the washroom and we would have to raise our hand to be allowed to stand. When the lunch recess bell was about to ring, we would have to be dismissed table by table to throw out our garbage and before we headed out. Story 32. Conservative Christian College. A group of us played Age of Empires one weekend. They didn't like it and called a meeting. Everyone involved got misdemeanors on their records. There was nothing in the handbook about it being against the rules. The only person that didn't get any punishment was the son of the president even though he was just as involved as the rest of us. Was quite interesting explaining the write-up on my record when I transferred. You got a misdemeanor for what? Story 33. In elementary, they banned running entirely. No running on the playground either. They also banned all ball sports, and would take your ball if you took it in from home, and they would put it in the gym cupboard to be used during PE class, physical education. Keep in mind that these were 4 to 11-year-olds, so everyone ignored the rules and so many were in detention, I'm not sure what we called it, that they had to drop the rule and nothing came of that. But the second rule about ball sports? Well, it turned out that one of the kids in the year below me had bought in a side soccer ball, by a really famous player, and the school took it and kept it. We found out because there was a very angry mother screaming at the secretary that they effectively stole something that could be worth upwards of $1,000. They obviously gave back the ball, and stopped stealing them after that. Who would have thought that stealing from little kids was a bad idea?